Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of the Technically Brilliant Show. My name is Ebony Johnson, and I serve as the Director of Education and Outreach for the Tribeca Film Festival Institute. And I'm happy to have you here. Join us during our lunch session to engage with us as we connect with Black artists, filmmakers, execs who are using virtual reality and augmented reality and other technologies to tell Black stories. Guiding our conversation today is Black Public Media's Director of Emerging Media, Lisa Osborne. So let's bring Lisa onto the stream. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
Good to see you.
Awesome.
And I am looking forward to our guest today. Did you want to say intro about Alton first?
I'll do an intro to Alton. I'm going to do a general explain what the heck BPM Plus is to people since we didn't do that last time. Black Public Media started the BPM Plus program in 2018. It is their umbrella name for all the emerging tech programs that they've launched since 2018. We have about 7 programs that we're running, ranging from VR mixers to pop-up VR theaters to we created a fellowship with MIT Open Doc Lab and MIT Center for Art, Science, and Technology last year. Which is very exciting. We have had 2 fellows wrap up their fellowships there yesterday, which was fantastic. We have the Technically Brilliant Show, which is our 7th program. We have the NCU Non-So-Christian Ugbode Fellowship, which is for creative technologists under the age of 30. So we have quite a bit going on. Please visit blackpublicmedia.org/BPM Plus to find out more information about all our programs. And with that, today's show, our guest is Alton Glass. And so Alton and I have known each other since 2018 when he was accepted into the Black Public Media 360 Incubator for his project POV Points of View, which he's going to debut at the Tribeca Film Festival in a little bit over 3 weeks. And if we could bring Alton on screen, then we can start our conversation. Hey, Alton.
Hello.
So where are you joining us from?
I live in Los Angeles area, California.
Are you from LA? Your accent doesn't sound like you're from LA.
Actually, I'm half and half. I'm originally from Detroit, raised in Atlanta, Georgia, but I get my accent from the South. So
obviously, I didn't know you're from Detroit.
You know, I got the best of both worlds. I get my hustle from Detroit, my hospitality from the South.
I'm offended as an Atlantan. I'm offended by that comment, but I'm gonna let it slide. I'm gonna let it slide. So what is your background? Like, did you go to film school? Are you a developer? Like, how did you get into all of this?
In terms of my background is traditional film and storytelling. So I went to school at Hollywood Cinema Production Resources, which was a local 600 union trainer program where I worked in camera first, became a camera assistant. By where I met director Michael Schultz, who did like Cooley High, Car Wash, Last Dragon.
Nice.
He became a wonderful mentor, shadowing him. And after that, I moved on into the Directors Guild of America, the DGA, and I started directing film and television, raising money to do independent films, which later moved into television directing and television feature films. And running my production company at the time was called Glass Rock Entertainment. So that's like my background. And then about 6 years ago, I got into virtual reality more so as R&D, an investment, doing R&D into understanding what immersive storytelling was.
Okay.
And then that investment, turned into me transitioning the company.
An obsession.
It was a rabbit hole, as someone called it, and I just kept going deeper and deeper. Really, really loving what it did for my imagination, because it was like no rules, and I was like, well, what is this, and what could it be?
Do you remember, what was the first VR experience or demo or whatever that you saw? Do you remember what it was at this point?
Yeah, actually, what was interesting was when I was a kid, I used to watch like NASCAR races, and I didn't have video games. So I would take VHS tapes, and I would put my fingers in the holes, and I would act like it was my controller, and I'd pick a car, and be like, that's me, right? And then eventually, what I ended up doing was that really, really stuck with me as a youth. So then when I tried VR for the first time, they actually put me in a NASCAR pit in a
Oh,
NASCAR
okay.
race in VR. And I was like, wow, the cars were zipping by, pulling up. And I was like, what is this? He was like, this is VR. And I was like, I got to know what this is. This
Right.
made me feel like this. And then that's when I went on this journey, going to expos and meeting people. And I was like, and I think what really sparked it was I didn't see much representation in VR at the expos. And I was like, well, if this is going to be a thing, I started looking at investments and what the industry was becoming. So I needed to jump in this and see where we'll have representation in this space.
So what was your first VR film and what year did you make that?
My first VR film was around 2017, I believe, that I made when I was like a lab rat at Radiant Images, where I met Amanda Shelby years ago. And it was called A Little Love. And we showcased that. That was a personal investment again. And VR was super expensive back then. So I ended up taking that to American Black Film Festival. Shout out to Jeff Friday, the founder of ABFF, who gave me an opportunity to put on the first VR synchronized screening. And we showcased it in a theater with 75 headsets and synchronized. And people came out like, wow, what was this? We had never experienced anything like this. So Black Enterprise came, Verizon came, and that became like the journey to opening more doors in that space. And
wonderful. So, you know, that's a great auspicious debut. That's fantastic. 75 people, most people, it's like, I took my VR film to a festival and one person watched it at a time, and they're, you know, and so it was one person at a time all day long. Mostly, you know, most festivals, VR theaters is not set up to be a movie theater style experience. Usually it's individual booths with one, maybe two headsets if you're lucky per booth. Mm-hmm. And sometimes festivals now are starting to, in the last couple of years, have started to roll out a VR theater where they'll screen their 360 films in like shorts programs. And then you'll have somewhere between 10 and 20, 25 seats in a thing. But I've never heard of a 75 seat experience. I saw a demo one time at Sundance where I think I was there and they gave out headsets to like maybe 200 or 300 people at the same time, but that was like a huge undertaking. So what did you learn from that first film? What was like your biggest, takeaway?
Well, one, we need more diversity in immersive tech. That was the big one. And then two, the barrier to entry was extremely high. So
what do you mean by that? Like cost or learning or
cost, learning, resources, I mean, everything. So what I learned was, I needed to try to build a community around creating immersive experiences. And that's what really, really pushed me to get into research opportunities and understanding community engagement, which I was thankful to get into the BPM community engagement program and learn how to build around my immersive experiences.
Right. Beyond. That was actually going to be my next question is, so in 2019, you were accepted into Black Public Media's 360 Incubator Program, which is our 3-month talent development program. And for you and one other VR project, you basically used the 3-month program to develop a community engagement strategy. And then you pitched it at our big Pitch Black event that happens every couple of years, and you won a $60,000 grant from us. So I would love for you to tell us, in the interim, since 2019, plus the next couple of years, how have you been using POV points of view for community engagement purposes and for educational purposes?
Yeah, I think for me, like coming from traditional film and television, usually you'll do a project and you'll work with PR, but you don't really have access to what's the story before the story and the story after the story. And I think that's what really, really helped me critically think in the incubator about how we map that out. So during that process that we've had the opportunity to really understand how do we make our experiences not just in VR, but how do we make them cross-platform so they can reach more people? And how do we create discourse, dialogue, and what are the action points that we can try to create around our project, right? So it's become more of impact-driven storytelling. And working with our impact team, Crooks, we've had a great opportunity to now work with organizations who help us engage with more communities, from the corporate level all the way to the community level with civic leaders, policy leaders, and community leaders.
Right.
To really
have you taken it into high schools or colleges to actually?
Yeah. So we kicked off our pilot top of this year, where we went into like the New York and to what's the name of the John Jay School of Criminal Justice. Worked with the students and the faculty there. We also did an amazing experience with FAMU, working with their immersive journalism department, showing them about the things that are coming out and how they tackle storytelling and the subject matter that we covered in POV and leveraging immersive technology. And then we also launched it at Mozilla Fest, where we talked about the impact of AI and ethics in AI.
Got it.
Storytelling. And now we're moving it to the broader communities and creating a kit, as you would call it, like a POV toolkit, where we can get people trained to administer the experience themselves and in their community to spread the word.
Well, let's dig into that a bit, because I think for educators who might be on watch this video later, or for film festival programmers might be thinking, well, we don't have VR equipment. How would we pull this off? So when you went to the law school in Harlem, for example, in New York, how long is the actual workshop? And then what are the components of the workshop?
Yeah, so it's about 90 minutes, and it's set up like an experience, like you're a part of a, just kind of get a background. The project is called POV Points of View, and it's about how we can reimagine our role in the development of civic technologies that could disproportionately impact our civil liberties, right? Particularly in Black and brown communities, as we know, these technologies will typically harm them the most, right? So we send you out a full-on immersive experience kit. So we'll ship you VR headsets for your community.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we ship out the hardware, everything. If you have a need for it, we'll ship it out for you. And if you don't, we'll create an online web XR experience that you can partake in. And then we do a full-on workshop. We also bring in like an AI ethics design lead, Elizabeth Adams, who has actually implemented public oversight in different communities like Minnesota, where they've brought oversight to facial recognition technologies, things like that. So we bring in experts in areas to show you how you can take action and how to partake in being part of the futuristic narrative within your community and your organization.
How long is the film part of the 90-minute experience?
The film is about 20 minutes, and then the overall experience is about an hour. With the interactivity, with the it's like an interactive survey, so to speak, where you're like on a case file, and you're answering questions, going through the evidence in a sense, right? About what happened when they did.
So it's a little bit game-like. It's not just straight, like fill out this worksheet. Yeah. Okay.
So the interface is built sort of interactive to feel like you're a part of a case file, and you give your insight on what you think happened. And then at the end you get some testimonials, and then you have a conversation about your point of view, because it's really about, at the end of the experience, what is your point of view, because we see things from different points of view.
Got it. So there's no wrong or right answer.
Yeah, it's open. We want to leave it open for discussion and dialogue about how we can come together to get on the same page of where things should go. Yeah.
So what's the capacity, like what's the smallest number of people that can do the workshop to the largest size group that you would want to book the workshop?
Right now we are up to about maybe 20 headsets that we can do if we ship them out. But I mean, we could go as much as probably 100 if we needed to. That would be something we'd probably prefer to do maybe locally, or we have to figure out the logistics for that type of number. But we could go higher if we needed to. But and I would say the lowest we've done is probably, I think, maybe 10, maybe. But online without headsets, we've done hundreds that could participate in the online experience.
Is that the plan for Tribeca? Is it a completely remote experience, or are you also setting up a booth or are you part of an in-person thing in Tribeca's building that's in the Tribeca neighborhood of New York City, which is normally where they set up their Tribeca immersive program?
Yeah, so Tribeca has a hybrid of experiences. They have some in-person at their virtual arcade. You can check out the location online. I think it's called Spring Studios. And then they have online an exhibit called the Moore Museum of Other Realities. And then they have Oculus, where it'll be launched on Oculus as well, in 360 only. And then an app experience as well, where you can watch it.
So let's back up. So there's an in-person experience that you can do in New York City at the Tribeca Festival where they're set up. Correct. So that experience is which headset? Is that a web experience or a headset experience?
That will be a headset experience.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And then you have an at home. So since I have a headset at home, I could watch it here from Atlanta as well.
Yeah. Yep,
okay. And then what version would I be downloading? Like what headset do I need?
You have
to
two
watch
options.
it?
So you can watch it tethered on with a Vive or a Oculus with a link cable, or a Rift with the Museum of Other Realities programming, or you can watch it in Oculus Store on Oculus TV with a Quest or any VR headset that allows you to,
I see. So the Museum of Other Realities is purely for tethered headsets.
Correct.
And the Oculus Store, or what did you call it? The Oculus TV?
Oculus TV, yeah.
Oculus TV is for people like me who own a Quest and don't have the fancy headset that's tethered. Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll have a web experience as well for people who don't have access to headsets.
Okay, got it.
WebXR, yeah.
I see. So there's 3 versions that you have to create for the festival.
3 versions, that's correct. To make sure we can increase, availability of
access.
Access is no one's left out.
Okay. Did you realize because the version that you submitted to the festival is one of those versions being used, or did you have to create 3 all new versions?
So we had to build 2 different applications. So we didn't anticipate on having to build 2 applications.
Okay.
I would just recommend that, when filmmakers are doing, these tours or even traditional movies, budget, but I call it budget from the end first, from the back.
Okay, that's a great tip.
All the way through, because you can miss out on things like DCPs if you're doing a film, and digital technology, things you have to transfer your project. So for us with VR, we had to build multiple iterations of an app, to be able to showcase that. And be able to showcase it, whether it be web app, VR app. So making sure you're prepared to budget backwards, and then.
We have a quick question from the audience. So Trey Colley wants to know, is the web version still interactive?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, got it. And then another viewer, Dana wants to know, what's something that you can share as far as do's and don'ts when get started? Because obviously you're giving this big tip of if you're going to apply to film festivals with your VR or AR, but specifically your VR experiences, just be aware that you might have to build additional builds of the VR experience to prep for the festival. So that, which is a huge tip for filmmakers, might not have been aware that that's going to be necessary. So are there any other tips that you would give somebody like Dana Miniweather in terms of, things they need to know if they're going to move into this field? Let's say that you're a traditional filmmaker, or maybe you're a developer and you want to start making VR experiences.
Yeah, I would say one is redundancy. Like sometimes when you have a really small team, if you rely on one developer or technician, and you don't have any skill sets yet to modify any of your experiences for these festivals or for these short turnarounds,
right?
You want to make sure that you have a good network of people who can make these modifications for you. Because you get caught in the pickle of, say, for instance, one of your developers is booked on something for the next 2-3 months, or cannot help you meet your deadline. So those are things that you want to be mindful of. Knowing whatever it is, your tech stack or whatever it is, your documentation, and making sure you have all your assets archived and prepared in a repository so that you can disseminate that information to all the people. Because a lot of times the organization piece, if you're the gatekeeper to all of that information, and it's all,
you could become a bottleneck, I'd imagine, because I've got producer brain. I'm already getting anxious thinking about one person having all the assets, willy-nilly in their system, and the rest of us need access to various things, visual assets, code, etc. And it's like, oh, I'm on vacation. You get that out of office responder. That's like a killer. I am on a shoot for the next 8 weeks.
Yes.
In Chicago. Fantastic. All right. So hopefully, thank you, Trey and Dana, for those great questions. All right. So let's jump back into this. So you're building 3 versions or 2 versions of your film to prep for Tribeca. What date does Tribeca start?
The 9th.
Okay.
June 9th.
And how long does it run for?
To the 20th, I believe. June 9th.
Okay, got it. And are you going to New York to physically be on site for any of that portion?
We're coordinating that right now to determine what will be the best.
Okay. Because I know when I've seen other VR experiences, because I've been seeing VR experiences installed at festivals since 2012, and it's quite a labor-intensive thing. Like, even though you have the film, let's say as part of a VR Shorts program, or it's set up in its own standalone booth, things break, especially if it's in a booth running, 12 hours a day. And I know people have learned some hard lessons about, like you said, about redundancy, like having that backup, server, or the backup, PC, computer set up, having multiple people on your staff and docents ready to rotate who actually know how to fix the thing when it breaks, as opposed to like all of you go off to finally take a huge 2-hour lunch and something happens while you're gone, and the poor volunteers are like, we don't know what to do, it's just broken, we have to shut the booth down, And I think it's like those trial by fire things that you can only learn on the fly by being at a festival and having that, press of people and the line and everything happening. But it's exciting though. I mean, are you excited to be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. I mean, this project has been in R&D for quite some time. So to be able to see it come out, it's almost like when we made it initially, conceptually, in the Google, we incubated in Google and YouTube's VR lab. We got the initial funding, and then COVID hit, and they were like, okay, and we need to pivot and figure out how to put it out online. So it's finally, coming out, and we're excited about the pilot we did with the resources from BPM.
Right.
Now we're ready to,
ready to roll. About how long do you think it takes to build a quality VR network of creatives and coders and just general, crew members of the type that you're describing? Like, how many years did it take you to build, to meet enough people, quality people?
Quality is a good keyword. You can meet them all over the place, but I think being intentional about referrals, doing your due diligence on, your experiences. It's like references, right? It's almost like dating. Like, you got to know who you want to date, so you don't waste your time.
Did you take references before you dated your wife, Alton? Are you telling me that you're like, can we please, I'm not gonna book a date with you until I hear, like, who do you know before I trust you?
I didn't know, what your vision is. Let's just put it that way. Make sure we're in alignment. That's what I do usually when I meet people, creators, developers, because you also want to make sure that people that you're working with, you're on the same page. Because if it's just about me making some money and moving on, when I need to build with you, you're already going off somewhere else. But if you're in alignment with people and you all have the same vision and it's mutually beneficial for the both of you,
right?
You say, okay, we're both in alignment with this. We can support each other.
Great advice for any creative project, not just emerging tech projects. Any film project, any ad campaign. I find anything that you're doing with multiple people, being in alignment and working from the same intentions, like why are you doing the project, is massive. Because as you say, for some people they're just there for the paycheck, and for other people it really is like, are we in sync and are we down to tell the message of whatever it is that we're building? Because if we're in alignment there, then that means, I think, that no matter if you're in alignment on your purpose for a project, then I think you can work out all the little snafus that come up during production. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, as long as you got that lock, then, you can pretty much work out anything, in my opinion. And again, that's me talking as like with, producer brain. So we have a lot of comments here. So one person called what you described persistence networking, which is a term that I've never heard before. So that's interesting. Persistence networking. I'm gonna have to steal that, social media awareness, whatever your real name is. So we're coming down to the wire here towards the end of the show. And I wanted to also find out, so what are post-festival, describe to me, like, what's on the agenda for GRX Immersive and for you as Alton, as a storyteller, for the next 6 months? Like, let's first do the business. Like, what is your goal for GRX? Where you're taking it by the end of the year?
Yeah, we've had really wonderful, tremendous support from some of our other partners, like Certain Foundation and Mozilla Foundation, who have got behind us to help us continue to keep it moving forward and keep the momentum going with the project. So with that, we want to create a tour, an immersive experience tour with GRX Immersive Labs, the company, because we're dedicated to the advancement of knowledge and immersive storytelling. technology equity and entrepreneurship. So we want to be able to use POV as a lead into the tour to kick those types of conversations off, and then showcase some of the other things that we're doing. Whether it's you want to become a part of an immersive storytelling workshop, or you want to learn about how to build an Unreal Engine, who we work with. So we want to be able to let this be a pathway into creating opportunities for
Got
people
it.
as
Repeat
well.
that thing again. You said technology, equity, and what was the last piece?
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. So when you take this tour on the road, like, is it going to HBCUs? Is it going,
Yep.
like, where is it going, and who's the person who's booking it? Like, is it an institution or organizations that you want to book GRX to come? Or is it that you will find your own venues and then advertise locally? You know, like you'll show up on my IG ad stream as an ad, and I, as an individual maker, whether I'm a storyteller, visual artist, coder, student, that I will opt in and buy admission to the experience. Like, how do you envision it working from a business perspective?
It's a combination. Like we kicked off a tour with Facebook and Oculus with HBCUs, where we were actually doing workshops on immersive storytelling. With HBCUs before COVID, and then we want to tap back into that again and continue to expand that with this tour as well. And so it'll be a combination of outreach to pre-existing HBCUs in our network with them, as well as some of our other supporters who have networks with institutions, colleges, nonprofit organizations, and middle school to high school, after school programs, and museums as well. Yep.
Got it. Speaking of museums, so you had a pretty big piece come out last year, right when COVID hit. Do you want to briefly tell us about that project?
Yeah. So really, shout out to my co-creator Mia Trams from Time Magazine. We did a project called The March with Time Magazine, executive produced by Viola Davis, that was about the recreation of the 1963 March on Washington, featuring Dr. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, where we had the opportunity to work with his estate and family to recreate a photorealistic rendering of Dr. King give that speech, and give you an opportunity to go back in time and walk down Constitution Avenue and experience that powerful day where over 250,000 people came together. You're actually immersed in that experience.
What platform did y'all build that for?
We built it with Houdini and Unreal Engine, and some proprietary technology with a visual effects company called Digital Domain. And company called Riot.
I like the way you're like, a little company called, Digital Domain, like all caps.
So that was great. They built out the experience. And right now, they built a custom experience for it with Vive, where you can have multiple headsets so that multiple people can do it at the same time.
Oh, like a communal VR piece.
It's a 6 degrees of freedom multi-user experience. Where
what's the maximum number of people that can be in headsets inside the experience at the same time?
You get a 10 by 10 volume of 4 people at a time that cycle through the experience. So there's multiple experiences as you go through the full exhibit, where you start off in like a immersive soundscape, hearing from the previous civil rights leaders, what they went through during Birmingham campaign, all the things that led up to the march. You hear from their voices. And then Viola Davis prompts you to go back in time to the march, and then you come out on the other side, and you're immersed in a lot of the archival and memorabilia from that time. Then you go into a artificial intelligence sort of.
So is that where can people see that? Like, is it going on the road, or is it just at one museum or one college? Where is it?
Yeah, it launched exclusively at Chicago's DeSable Museum in Chicago, and that will be they'll have it first, and then it'll go on tour after that, and then we're also working out how we could create an in-home experience as well.
Oh, that'd be super dope. Well, I think I don't see any additional questions from the audience unless anybody wants to quickly put anything in there, but I just want to wish you the best. And I hope you have an amazing experience with Tribeca. And I know it's a lot of work to prepare for a festival of that size. And I think, like we had talked about, sometimes it takes people aback because it's like, whoa, all this stuff. But I think you and your team sound super prepared. And I think that, the film is going to have a great experience. You're going to have a great experience with it. And thank you so much for coming on the show to give us a little preview of what's coming up.
Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please tune in next Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern again. Our guest will be Bayate Ross Smith, the director of Red Summers VR, Domestic Terrorism from 1917 to 1921. It's a series of 360 VR short documentaries that Bayate is creating that focuses on retelling or reassessing so-called race riots that took place in the US about 100 years ago. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.